Let me say something that might feel uncomfortable at first. Most people who believe they are being nice are actually avoiding discomfort. Now, that may sound harsh, but stay with me for a moment. Because this isn't about blaming anyone. It's about understanding a pattern that keeps a lot of good, thoughtful people stuck in situations they secretly resent. Think about how often people describe themselves this way. I'm just a nice person. I don't like conflict. I don't want to upset anyone. I try to keep the peace. On the surface, those qualities sound positive. Kindness matters. Compassion matters. Respect matters. But sometimes what we call being nice is actually something else entirely. Sometimes it's a strategy to avoid uncomfortable emotions. Imagine a moment where someone says something that crosses a line for you. Maybe they make a request you don't want to agree to. Maybe they speak to you in a way that feels dismissive. Maybe they assume your time is automatically available. In that moment, you have a choice. You could speak honestly. You could say, that doesn't work for me. Or you could smile, stay quiet, change the subject, agree even though you don't want to. Most people choose the second option. Not because they're weak, because they want to avoid what might happen next. If you speak honestly, the other person might feel uncomfortable. They might disagree. They might react emotionally. The moment might feel awkward. And for many nervous systems, that discomfort feels threatening. So instead of risking tension, your body chooses harmony, even if that harmony comes at your own expense. That's where the identity of nice becomes complicated, because kindness is about caring for people. But avoidance is about protecting yourself from discomfort. And sometimes those two things look very similar on the surface, but they operate very differently underneath. March has been preparing us for the next conversation because the entire month has been working with Energy Body 3, the positive mind, the part of you responsible for holding direction, holding decisions, holding truth, even when emotions fluctuate. And the positive mind often asks the difficult question: are you choosing kindness or are you choosing comfort? Because sometimes those two paths are very different. Now add the influence of the universal year one, and again, year one is about identity. The behavior you repeat this year begin forming the structure of the next chapter of your life. And identity isn't built through what you intend. It's built through what you practice. If you repeatedly choose avoidance, avoidance becomes your pattern. But if you begin choosing honesty, even when it feels uncomfortable, a completely different identity begins forming. If you're new here, hi, I'm Cherry. I'm a spiritual life coach, numerologist, and energy body teacher. And on this channel, we talk about growth in a way that is both compassionate and honest. Not just understanding your patterns, but learning how to change them. Because awareness is only the beginning. Real transformation happens when behavior begins to shift. So today we're going to explore something honestly. Why so many people hide behind the identity of nice. Why avoidance often feels safer than honesty. And how learning to tolerate discomfort can completely transform your boundaries, relationships, and sense of self. So take a breath here. Because this conversation isn't about judging yourself. It's about recognizing patterns that your nervous system once used to protect you, and deciding whether those patterns still serve the person you're becoming. To understand why people avoid discomfort, we have to understand something about the nervous system. Your nervous system is constantly scanning the environment for signs of safety or threat. Not just physical threat, emotional threat as well. Things like conflict, disagreement, disapproval, even small moments of social tension can activate the body's protective responses. For many people, early life experiences taught the nervous system that harmony equals safety. If the environment around you became tense when people disagreed, if expressing your needs created conflict, if approval came from being agreeable and cooperative, then your nervous system learned an important rule. Keeping the peace keeps you safe. Over time, that rule becomes automatic. Your body begins responding to social tension as if it were danger. So when a moment of disagreement appears, the nervous system quickly looks for the fastest way to restore harmony. And the fastest solution is often avoidance. Avoidance can look very polite on the surface. You smile, you agree, you say, that's fine. You offer help even when you're exhausted. You soften your opinion so no one feels uncomfortable. The moment stays peaceful. But the cost of that peace is that your own needs quietly disappear. This is why so many people who identify as nice also experience something else privately: resentment, frustration, emotional exhaustion, because constantly avoiding discomfort means your nervous system is always managing other people's emotional states. And that requires a huge amount of energy. Energy body 3, the positive mind, plays a crucial role here. The positive mind is responsible for holding direction, even when emotions fluctuate. It allows you to stay steady when the environment becomes uncomfortable. Without this stability, decisions change based on whoever reacts the strongest. Someone becomes upset and the boundaries disappear. Someone pushes harder and the answer changes. Someone expects something from you and your schedule rearranges itself around their needs. Strengthening energy body 3 means learning to tolerate small moments of discomfort without immediately trying to remove them. That might look like allowing someone to feel disappointed, allowing a moment of silence after expressing your opinion, allowing another person to process your boundary. Those moments can feel unfamiliar at first, but they are essential for developing self-leadership. Now bring in the influence of the universal year 1. Year 1 asks you to establish new behavioural patterns that will shape the direction of the entire 9-year cycle ahead. If avoidance continues to guide your decisions, your life will continue organising around other people's discomfort. But if you begin practicing honest expression, even when it creates small moments of tension, your environment begins reorganizing around authenticity instead. So let's pause for a moment. I want you to think about a recent situation where you avoided saying what you truly felt. Maybe you stayed quiet. Maybe you agreed when you didn't want to. Maybe you softened your boundary to keep the peace. Notice what emotion you were trying to avoid in that moment. Awkwardness, disappointment, conflict. That emotion is the doorway your nervous system is learning to tolerate. Because on the other side of that doorway is personal freedom. When avoidance becomes a habit, something subtle begins to happen over time. Your life slowly reorganizes itself around other people's comfort instead of your own truth. Not in one dramatic moment, but in small decisions repeated again and again. You agree to things you didn't actually want to do. You stay quiet when something feels unfamiliar. You soften your opinions so the conversation stays smooth. And each time it happens, the nervous system learns something. It learns that maintaining harmony matters more than expressing honesty. At first, this pattern can feel rewarding. People appreciate your flexibility. They describe you as easygoing, reliable, helpful, and kind. And those compliments reinforce the behaviour because everyone enjoys feeling valued. But beneath the surface, another pattern quietly begins forming. Your own needs become less visible. Your preferences become less clear. Your voice becomes softer, not because you lack opinions, but because expressing them has been consistently delayed or avoided. Over time, this creates a strange emotional tension. Externally, everything looks peaceful, but internally, frustration begins building. You might start noticing moments where you feel irritated with people for expecting things from you. But if we look honestly at those situations, we often see something important. The expectations weren't always forced on you. Many times they were created through patterns of agreement. If you consistently say yes, people naturally assume the answer will continue to be yes. Not because they are trying to take advantage of you, but because your previous behaviour has defined the pattern. This is one of the quiet costs of avoidance. It doesn't only affect how others behave, it affects how you experience yourself. You may begin feeling unseen, underappreciated, or taken for granted. But the deeper reason often lies in the fact that your true limits and preferences have rarely been visible. If people never see your boundaries, they cannot respond to them. Energy Body 3, the positive mind, helps bring clarity back into these situations. The positive mind holds direction. It allows you to ask, what behaviour actually represents the person I am becoming? Not the version of you that kept everyone comfortable, but the version of you that lives honestly. Because when the positive mind becomes stronger, your decisions begin reflecting your values rather than your fears. Now consider this through the lens of the universal year 1. Year 1 is about identity formation. It's the moment where you begin establishing the patterns that will shape the next phase of your life. If avoidance continues guiding your behaviour, the next cycle will look very similar to the last one. But if you begin allowing honesty to replace avoidance, even in small ways, your relationships and environment begin reorganizing themselves. And that change can be incredibly powerful. Let's pause for another moment here. Think about one area of your life where you often choose peace over honesty. where you stay quiet instead of speaking your truth, where you agree even when something doesn't feel aligned. Ask yourself a simple question. If I stop avoiding discomfort in this situation, what would I actually say? You don't need to act on it immediately. Just noticing the answer begins shifting the pattern. One of the most important shifts in personal growth is realizing that discomfort is not the enemy. Avoidance of discomfort is what keeps the pattern stuck. When your nervous system believes that awkwardness, disagreement, or disappointment must be prevented at all costs, your behavior begins organizing around those fears. But when you learn to tolerate small moments of discomfort, something powerful happens. Your choices begin coming from truth instead of protection. Let's clarify something important. Learning to tolerate discomfort does not mean becoming harsh. It does not mean attacking people. It does not mean creating conflict unnecessarily. What it means is allowing reality to exist without immediately trying to smooth it over. For example, someone may feel disappointed when you say no. That disappointment is not dangerous. Someone may disagree with your opinion. That disagreement does not mean the relationship is broken. Someone may need time to adjust to a new boundary. That adjustment period is normal. When your nervous system learns that these moments are safe to experience, the pressure to avoid them disappears. And once avoidance disappears, honesty becomes much easier. This is where Energy Body 3, the positive mind, becomes incredibly supportive. The positive mind holds direction even when emotional waves appear. It allows you to remain steady inside moments that once felt uncomfortable. Instead of immediately changing your behavior to restore harmony, you can simply stay present. You can breathe. You can allow the moment to unfold naturally. This is not something that happens instantly. It is a skill your nervous system develops through repetition. The first few times you hold a boundary while someone processes their feelings, it may feel tense. Your body may want to fix the moment. But if you allow the discomfort to exist without abandoning your decision, something new happens. Your nervous system learns that honesty does not destroy connection. It simply changes the dynamic. And often those new dynamics become healthier and more respectful over time. Now bring this back to the universal year one. Year one is where new behavioral patterns are formed. It's the beginning of a new identity cycle. And identity changes through repetition, through repeated action. Every time you choose honesty over avoidance, you strengthen a new version of yourself, a version that trusts their voice, a version that allows others to experience their own emotions, a version that understands that relationships can include moments of tension without falling apart. Again, let's pause for a moment. Think about a situation where you normally soften your truth to keep the peace. Now imagine speaking honestly in that moment, not aggressively, not defensively, just calmly and clearly. Notice what feelings arise when you imagine that. Maybe there's tension, maybe there's relief, or maybe both. Those sensations are simply your nervous system adjusting to a new way of operating. When honesty replaces avoidance, something interesting begins happening in your life. Your relationships become clearer. Your decisions become simpler. Your energy becomes more stable because your behavior finally aligns with what you actually feel. So let's bring this conversation back to something simple. Most people who describe themselves as being nice are not trying to manipulate anyone. They're trying to maintain peace. They're trying to avoid conflict. They're trying to protect relationships. Those intentions are understandable. But when avoidance becomes a strategy that guides your behavior, something important gets lost along the way. Your truth, your needs, your voice. And over time, the nervous system begins organizing your life around one quiet rule. Keep everyone comfortable. But the problem with that rule is this. If everyone else's comfort becomes the priority, your own limits slowly disappear. And when your limits disappear, resentment often appears in its place, not because you stopped caring about people, but because your nervous system has been carrying more responsibility than it was meant to hold. March has been guiding you toward a different pattern because this entire month has been working with Energy Body 3, the positive mind, the part of you that holds direction, the part of you that stays steady when emotions fluctuate. The positive mind asks you to remain aligned with truth even when the moment feels uncomfortable, not aggressively, not defensively, but honestly. Inside a universal year one, this shift becomes especially powerful. Year one marks the beginning of a new 9-year cycle, a time where identity reorganizes. And identity is shaped by behavior more than intention. But every time you choose honesty instead of avoidance, every time you hold a boundary instead of softening it, every time you allow someone to experience their emotions without rushing to fix them, you are building a new pattern. A pattern where your life begins aligning with who you actually are. This doesn't mean relationships will become harder. In many cases, they become clearer because honesty creates understanding. It removes the quiet confusion that often appears when people try to read between the lines. When your words match your reality, the people around you begin learning how to relate to you differently, with more clarity, more respect, and often more authenticity as well. So as we close this month, I want you to carry one simple reminder with you. Being kind does not require abandoning yourself. You can be compassionate and still be honest. You can care about others while also respecting your own limits. You can allow moments of discomfort without losing connection, because the relationships that are meant to grow with you will adapt to your truth. So take a breath here. Feel your body. Feel the steadiness inside you. The more your decisions come from honesty rather than avoidance, the more your life begins reflecting the person you are becoming. And that is where the real transformation begins. Before we go, if this resonates, if you're feeling that inner yeses in your soul, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell so that you never miss a transmission. This channel isn't just content. It's a frequency, a sacred remembering, a space where you're called out and called home all in the same breath. And if you need extra guidance, there is a numerology freebie in the description box to help you show where you're in balance and off balance. So if you're ready to rise, heal, and to reclaim your truth, one video at a time, like this video, drop a fire or heart emoji in the comments, and let me know what landed for you. Let's co-create this new earth together, one soul activation at a time. Welcome to the remembrance. See you in the next video. Bye for now.